Hello, I'm Kelly Wood, and welcome back to People in Perspective. Joining me today is Rebecca Wood, a Riverside Brookfield alumni, a hardworking businesswoman, and a mother of three. Rebecca, ever-bopping bullpup, welcome back as you were in 1990 with my interviewing predecessors, Leslie Smith and Kathy Murray, class of 1991. Hashtag once a bulldog, always a bulldog.
That's what I always say.
How does it feel to be back in your old high school?
It feels great. It really does. The school has changed a little bit. My locker is still in the same place, and it's a little bit updated, but it really feels great to be back here.
Yeah, any fond memories?
Oh, millions. I loved coming to RB, and I loved being a bulldog. I actually raised all three of you singing the Bulldog fight song.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
After you graduated from RB, where did you go? What did you do?
I went on to Loyola University of Chicago to pursue a business degree in marketing. And I did that in 4 years. I did get to spend a year abroad at the Loyola University Rome Center. And so I got to travel all throughout Europe for my junior year of college. It was great.
Wow. Go to Hong Kong?
No.
Australia?
Once.
Germany?
Yes.
Atlanta?
I lived there.
Oh, awesome. So you ended up getting a business degree. What did you do with your business degree?
I originally went straight into sales. So actually, not straight into sales because I moved to Denver right after college. So I finished college and then that June packed up my sister Mary's car, Aunt Mary's car, and we drove to Denver.
Yeah.
And that's where I worked with Kathy Murray Dawn, at a bar until my dad said, get a job. And then I got hired with a company called Linear, and I sold dictation equipment for a few years. And then I moved up in that company, as you know from all the stories. I went from Denver to Chicago. Then from Chicago, I went on to our corporate headquarters, where I was a national sales trainer, and that's where I met your father.
Oh.
We were sales trainers together.
What a love story.
So, okay, so after meeting your father and working at corporate headquarters for Linear, I then went on to work in Denver. I got transferred back to Denver, and then I realized that I wanted to be with your dad. So I moved out to LA where he was a sales manager for Linear. And that was in 1999, so not to date myself, but I then moved on to work for Baxter Healthcare. And so that's where I got into the healthcare industry. And I worked for Baxter Healthcare on and off for 10 years after that.
Cool. So what are you doing now?
What am I doing now? That's a great question, Callie.
Thank you.
So since I was in the healthcare arena for so long, I was able to make a lot of connections, meet a lot of people, learn the industry. And I recently had an opportunity, actually back in 2019, to get back into healthcare with a pharmaceutical company, West Therapeutics. And I worked with them for 3 years doing marketing, and actually I ended up doing some sales. It was a very small company. So from there I moved on to work with another organization called Radius Pharmaceuticals, where we worked on a clinical trial for a rare disease called Prader-Willi. And Prader-Willi is a neurological disorder. It's chromosome 15, and it comes from the father, and it lays dormant, and so it causes some neurological issues. And one of the biggest issues in Prader-Willi is called hyperphagia. And hyperphagia is the inability to stop eating.
Oh, yeah.
So I worked on a clinical trial with a synthetic cannabidiol called RAD11. And our clinical trial was to see if this cannabidiol would suppress the hunger in these patients with Prader-Willi.
Wow.
Unfortunately, our trial got closed down because our company was bought out by a private equity firm. But that only opened more opportunities, so I've continued to stay in the advocacy realm. And I am now working on a project for the Angelman Syndrome Foundation. And Angelman syndrome is another neurological disorder on the same chromosome. It's kind of like the sister or brother disease to Prader-Willi. And so I am preparing a clinical trial preparedness resource so that when the Angelman Syndrome Foundation reaches out to physicians to do a trial and partners up with a pharmaceutical company, hospitals and clinical research coordinators or study coordinators that take over the clinical trial and kind of guide it, have a resource so it helps them to recruit patients, keep the patients in a clinical trial, which is so very important to start it and to finish it, and have kind of just some help because clinical trials are pretty tough these days.
Yeah, yeah. So do you like doing your job knowing that you could be improving somebody's life or even changing it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Even back when I worked for Baxter Healthcare, I was in the blood business, and knowing that 1 pint of blood can save somebody's life was very rewarding.
Yeah.
So, and continuing to stay in the realm of helping people really is rewarding.
Yeah. What advice would you give to somebody who wants a job similar to yours?
Well, I would say, first and foremost, I think that a lot of people just graduating college, you kind of have to get your feet wet. You kind of have to start somewhere. So it doesn't have to be anything set in stone as to what you want to do. But if you wanted to get into the healthcare, I would recommend either sales or from a clinician standpoint. I've worked with lots of PhDs, lots of doctors, lots of salespeople. So it's a huge industry, but advocacy is really rewarding.
Yeah, cool. You need like a good work ethic to do that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think one of the things back when I started in sales, we had this work ethic that was ingrained in us that you had to be at the office by 7 a.m. Yeah, brutal.
Yeah.
And then we would always have to do 5 calls after 5. So it wasn't, and what that means is we would have to make cold calls after 5 p.m. So when what we would call the gatekeeper in the business world, somebody who answers the phones or is manning the front desks, because we were always trying to get to the decision maker, right? In sales, you want to get to the person who makes the decisions. So if you call after 5 and there's no gatekeeper there, it's a little bit easier to get through.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yes.
All right. Well, you've been my mother for 17 years, and I didn't know half of this stuff. But
well, thank you for having me today, Callie.
Oh, Mom, thanks for coming. It has been so interesting and fun, and it was a pleasure talking to you. I'm Callie Wood, and this was People in Perspective. Thanks for watching.